Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the board of the African Philanthropy Forum, led by Mrs. Sisi Masiyiwa, the board chair, I would like to warmly welcome you to the APF East Africa Regional Meeting. Clap for us. We're so excited to be here and delighted that you could join us on the sidelines of the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend, a unique gathering of individuals, foundations, corporations, institutions, governments, and stakeholders who all share an interest in the development of Africa. I'm particularly excited to be here. It's my first time in Kigali, and I'm not passing through the airport, so that's really exciting. And I've never been at the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend, and I've had an amazing time. How many of you have been here the past few days? Great, fantastic. It's been amazing, and we're super excited that we can bring you all to join in this conversation with us today. I'll just share a little bit about the APF before we move into the session. Established in 2014 and initially incubated by the Global Philanthropy Forum, the African Philanthropy Forum is a community of African philanthropists and social investors who are moving the needle through their commitment to achieving equitable, sustainable development in Africa. It's about philanthropy for Africa by Africans. At APF, we believe in the power of collaborative efforts to solve systemic problems using systemic solutions. Through a united approach, we can uplift communities in which we live and do business. Today's meeting is an opportunity for us to explore approaches to working together by leveraging the opportunities, relationships, and access available to us to take philanthropy in Africa to the next stage. Since its inception, APF has dedicated its efforts and resources to establishing its brand presence on the continent through its regional meetings and conferences. The APF has also invested in the development of a toolkit for African philanthropists and the Why Give series, which consists of interviews with Africa's strategic philanthropic leaders, one of whom is Dr. Mo Ibrahim. These are downloaded at the APF website at africanpf.org. We have also shared relevant and timely information through our physical and electronic newsletters and inspired philanthropists and social investors to increase the scale and impact of their work across the continent. Beyond this, we are creating platforms for current and emerging philanthropists to learn and share best practices. Today, we have reached approximately 900 philanthropists and stakeholders in Ethiopia, Kenya, Morocco, Rwanda, South Africa, Tanzania, and Uganda. Building on the success of our efforts thus far, in 2018, we want to do more by providing matchmaking services for philanthropists with similar interests, publishing Volume 2 of the Toolkit for African Philanthropists, developing a database of service providers to be accessed by members of the network, developing a database of African philanthropists and their activities on the continent, partnering with select universities to develop a curriculum and train aspiring and emerging philanthropists, setting up affinity groups to tackle pressing issues in their communities, as well as creating and managing an emergency fund to support victims of natural disasters on the continent. Our upcoming events this year, in addition to the one we're having in Kigali today, are going to hold in Maputo in Mozambique in the month of June, in Accra right after this one in May, in Cairo in July, and in Douala, Cameroon in May. But more exciting is our flagship event, which is our annual conference that is held in an African city every year. Last year we were in Lagos, and this year we're going to be in Johannesburg on August 1st and 2nd, with pre-conference events starting on July 31st. This year, our conference is entitled Potential and Reality, Bridging the Gap, and it will discuss the role of philanthropists and social investors in bridging the gap between Africa's potential and its reality, while focusing on collaborative actions to effect this change. We strongly encourage you to register for this event. You can have more information at the registration desk or just visit our website after this event. There are opportunities for collaboration, opportunities for getting involved in the APF. We would like to encourage you to be a member, to join a network of vibrant philanthropists and social investors who are committed to promoting homegrown development on the continent. We would like to encourage you also to participate in our regional meetings. So if you happen to be in any of the cities I've mentioned during the period we're there, in Maputo, in Douala, in Cairo, or in Accra, feel free to join us. And of course, you're very much welcome to the event in South Africa. By participating in our conferences, which are designed to inspire, enable, and connect potential, emerging, and established philanthropists, you have the opportunity to contribute to the development of a strong Africa that we all desire and dream of. I always tell people, for as long as I've been old enough to know anything, Africa has been a potentially great continent. I think it's time to move from being potentially great to actually being great. And we do need the efforts of those in this room and some of the people that are outside of this room to actually take the responsibility into their hands. I think we've heard over the past 2 days, nobody is going to solve our problems for us. We as Africans have to solve our own problems. And there are various membership categories at the APF. Again, we can share that information with you. It's also available on our website. But I'll just close by quoting a favorite African proverb of mine. As we extend our reach and impact, we are once more reminded that if we want to go fast, we go alone. But if we want to go far, we go together. And that's the point of the conversation today. How can we collaborate and work together to go far? A handful of people cannot change Africa, but a strong network of like-minded individuals can. On this note, I would like to invite you to join us on this transformative journey to achieve a long-lasting, sustainable change in Africa. Thank you. Thank you. So we're moving right on into the next phase of the meeting, and I would like to invite, to set the context for today's meeting, Ambassador Abraham Georges. Got it? He's the president of ERI Platform, an international civil association working to promote inclusive dialogue on vital national, regional, and international issues impacting Eritrea and the Horn of Africa. It works to foster understanding of respect for and commitment to the rule of law, democratic principles, and human rights. Ambassador Georges is the senior expert in global governance. He's a senior expert in Global Governance Institute, founding board member of the European Center for Electoral Support, and brand ambassador for Wallonia, Belgium. He is also a research fellow at the Department of International and European Law at the Free University of Brussels. He has taught economics, African politics, diplomacy, and international negotiations. Educated at the University of Colorado and Harvard University, he has published numerous articles and a book, Eritrea at a Crossroad, a narrative of triumph, betrayal, and hope. Some of you may remember him from an engaging discussion with Dr. Mo Ibrahim yesterday. Please welcome Ambassador Georges.
Thank you very much for your nice words. Distinguished delegates and philanthropists, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me begin by thanking the African Philanthropy Forum for inviting me to speak on the power of collaborative philanthropy in this East Africa regional meeting, alongside the Mo Ibrahim Foundation's Governance Weekend here in Kigali, beautiful Rwanda. It's an honor and a privilege for me to join in this regional forum where established, emerging, and aspiring philanthropists, social entrepreneurs, and social investors in East Africa have come together to discuss, network, and collaborate on proven and novel strategies for sustainable and impactful collaboration. In trying to set the context for our discussion this morning, I will focus on 3 issues. First, some of Africa's main developmental challenges. Second, the role of collaborative philanthropy in solving the social and economic problems. And third, the power of collaborative philanthropy to scale and amplify the social impact of the work of philanthropists in Africa. What are Africa's principal development challenges? Africa is a rich and diverse continent, endowed with abundant resources, varied cultures, and a hard-working people. Despite its vast natural and human resources, however, a combination of historical factors aggravated by, among other things, malgovernance, wars and conflict, rampant corruption, and political instability have hindered its development and the progress of its people for far too long. A significant democratic deficit has provoked violent conflicts in many parts of Africa, feeding underdevelopment and poverty. Politics and economics of exclusion have generated vast income disparities and limited access to essential public goods and services for the great majority of the African people. Moreover, Africa must grapple with the effects of climate change, environmental degradation, gender inequality, and youth unemployment. In the absence of a silver bullet or a standard formula, we must seek and work out creative solutions to these pressing social and economic problems based on solidarity and collaboration. In this context, what would be the role, or what should be the role of collaborative philanthropy in solving Africa's challenge? The AU Agenda 2063 and the UN Agenda 2030 provide strategic frameworks for an inclusive and sustainable development intended to effect the socio-economic transformation of Africa and the world. These agendas represent ambitious, global, and holistic blueprints to tackle the multiple dimensions of the development challenge facing Africa in the 21st century. To help produce optimal results, collaborative philanthropy should complement these global and continental agendas and work, among other things, to foster, 1, democratic governance, 2, develop autonomous civil society, and expand social services in Africa. There's been a lot of discussion on democratic governance. There's, of course, no one-size-fits-all definition of democracy. But in my view, it must at least include certain principles that distinguish a democratic from a non-democratic form of government. These include rule of law, respect for fundamental freedoms, protection of basic rights, including minority rights, popular participation in the governance process, and transparency and accountability in public policy and decision-making, including in the management of state assets and national resources. Democratic governance will respect the social contract between the state and the citizens. The second most important, in my view, is, of course, the creation and development of autonomous civil society. In much of Africa, civil society is constrained or denied of autonomy unless it, of course, becomes a willing extension of the state where the government is not even allowed to continue, particularly in countries like my own. Strong, independent, and capable civil society including a free press, is essential for democratic governance. Given the space of freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, civil society can countervail violations of democratic values by the state or the government, such as rule of law, justice, freedom, equality, human rights, and dignity. It can help promote and/or preserve the rule of law and adherence to the social contract, as well as mediate conflicting interests and find common ground for joint effort to improve people's lives. And the third item here is social services. Sustainable development requires a healthy and educated population. Africa is home to 1.2 billion people, over 60% of whom are under the age of 25. By 2050, the population is projected to double, making Africa the second most populous continent. Africa's rapid population growth is expected to have hard-hitting socioeconomic and environmental impacts, putting greater strain on scarce resources and limited services. Providing for quality education, adequate public health care delivery, and gainful employment are thus among the key challenges facing Africa. African states must invest in Africa's youth, the continent's most valuable resource, and develop their education and healthcare systems to equip a healthy youth with the skill set needed now and in the future. Ensuring quality education, gainful employment, and meaningful engagement would help minimize irregular migration, put an end to the brain drain, and help accelerate Africa's development. Under these circumstances, what powers does collaborative philanthropy have to bridge the gap between Africa's reality and the ideal that Africa should aspire to? The object of all human endeavor is to uplift the human condition. The size of Africa, the spread of its states, and poor infrastructure present unique challenges of accessibility and connectivity or connectedness of communities with differing circumstances and realities on the ground. Knowledge and awareness of local circumstances is essential for collaborative philanthropy to respond to local needs, complement local initiatives, and add value to communities. Collaborative philanthropy can bring about close coordination among the philanthropic, nonprofit, and policy communities to provide an effective response to the need for solidarity and democratic governance in Africa, contribute to sustainable development, and reduce income disparity. The interconnected nature and sheer scale of Africa's challenges require a holistic approach involving large and scaled initiatives capable of producing optimal results. A holistic approach would factor in the various dimensions associated with or linked to Africa's interwoven challenges to restructure the system and effect impactful and sustainable change. Effective philanthropy requires a shift away from small, fragmented initiatives towards larger and more collaborative projects. The old Aristotelian expression that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts aptly sums up the synergy that collaborative philanthropy can generate in achieving a common purpose. Collaborative philanthropy can foster strategic partnership among networks of social change leaders, philanthropists, and organizations across all fields, local, national, regional, and international, for greater sustainable impact. It can partner with the state at national, regional, and local levels, with business, with civil society organizations to address specific issues of public interest or public concern. It can also partner with the African Union and the regional economic communities to promote student exchange among African universities, like the European Union's Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, to help foster a shared citizenship in the service of the economic integration and political union of Africa that the Pan-Africanist movement has been striving to achieve. Collaborative philanthropy has a potential for greater and durable social impact. Beyond the pooling of financial resources, scaling initiatives requires growing networks, knowledge sharing, research, and lessons learned, competent project management and administration, human resources and capacity building, as well as access to technology, the internet, hardware, software, etc. Collectively, such actions would provide advantages that help foster solidarity and unity for a common purpose. We all know that there is strength in unity and synergy in collaborative effort. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm now pleased to introduce the moderator of the panel, Sarah Kaba-Jones, founder and CEO of FACE Africa, a community development organization working to strengthen water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure and services in rural communities across sub-Saharan Africa. Sarah?